The time has come for the last set of the night. That's right, it's the money match here on Deadlock Fight Night number 23, North America, presented by Intel. I am ZP here with Jake, and Jake, Melee Creeps now has to hold serve against the best of the best when you put them all together in a mixed team, including the Mercenary, he who is undefeated in Fight Night. That's right, I'm talking about Buds.
Yeah, Buds, Crayon, and Vegas coming in together, all looking pretty solid. I mean, Vegas put up a huge game on Viscous, that last game, and this is all off the back of a new patch here. So a real test of the Melee Creeps. Do they have what it takes to weather the storm that is coming? Because you can bet Crayon Eaters are going to be fighting on all fronts, especially if you look at how that last game went.
Yeah, and look, I think anything could happen, and we got differences of opinion here that we had in broadcast, which I'm just gonna bring them in here and not repeat the mistakes I made with Dan, where I just left Dan freezing out of the cold. Jason, welcome back to the program, and Jason, you were pretty clear. You think Melee Creeps, they're gonna run away with this one?
I know we're talking about new patch and change things up, especially when it comes to like E-Shift and some heroes being played, but don't forget, Melee Creeps wiped the floor with Hydronation last week. Like, Quig put on a clinic within the team. He already, within less than a week's time, was able to put them at the point that they could beat Hydronation 2-0. Now he's got an extra week under his belt with the team. And obviously, it's not a full Hydronation lineup. It's still a majority of players who have played within that roster. I feel like it should almost be too easy for them. I don't want to count, obviously, the Crayon Eaters out, but how can you go against Melee Creeps in this match?
Jason right now is really greasing the skids, Jake, for it to be a case of like, you know what? Bet the house on Melee Creeps, get all your channel points in, and then we're gonna get to the draft, and it'll come out.
It's a pump and dump. Don't believe him. It's a pump and dump.
Let me get my
Jake right now just stopping the schemes right where it stands. Someone who's deeply invested into the market, but also
buy the shorts, Chad. Short the Melee Creep stock.
Take Jake's advice or don't, but you know what you should take us up on? The new merch promo in the run of show. I don't know if it's actually new, and you know what? We showed it earlier today, but it's still new-ish. Good enough for me.
Can you please show up to the first land, ZP, in a group hug sweater or t-shirt?
That would go crazy. I want ZP in the Dynamo group hug sweater.
Just full Dynamo gear. I don't know why I'm getting such a Dynamo. I feel like we've already established.
He's got the hat. He's got the sunglasses. He's got the underwear. He's got it all.
Just nothing but group hug. But I do feel like I've been more associated with Abrams, just because you wear glasses and have a face shape even remotely nearby. Like just paint me blue and I'm good to go.
You should do an Abrams cosplay at the first Deadlock land. Get the full blue like avatar body paint. I'm just saying that would go crazy.
Just walk around.
We got to do a sub goal for that.
I was gonna say, if we're gonna get me to shave my head at 1K, which I'm gonna repeat, as it's already passed, it's not gonna happen anymore. Maybe the new goal is at 1K, we get the full Abrams cosplay at a ZP with the body paint and everything. That you know what? I would probably gift some stuff.
Wait,
for that.
Jason, would you rather it be like he hires somebody like a professional to like properly paint him blue, or he just does it himself? The most scuffed, like terrible.
I got a better plan. He flies to LA and he makes hexagrams paint him.
Oh,
yes,
God.
I love that plan. It's the best of both worlds.
And this is how I lost my vision, because he didn't take care around the eyes and actually blinded me with blue paint. I don't know if you can do a blind Abrams, but maybe the book he carries around can do a little bit of healing there. But we are gonna go right into the draft here and see what is going on between Melee Creeps and Crayon Eaters, and if it will follow the script that we've been seeing here. I mean, we did see a GT get through, which we weren't really expecting. I don't know if he'll come through again this time here, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it'd be up to Melee Creeps, right, to be taking that ban out of the pool, given Crayon Eaters have first pick. I see no reason they wouldn't snap it up again. I see no reason for them to really change much, unless there's something they really are worried about from Melee Creeps. But I think this early in the pick phase, I don't think we're going to see any kind of big changes.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think one advantage that Crayon Eaters do have is that at least a couple of their players, well, I guess Left in particular, has a lot more prep when it comes to this new patch, playing over with Thanos in the one-win bombshell currently, where they did beat 1-win 2-0. So he's going to have definitely a really good insight into it. But obviously, Melee Creeps, they've been screaming on this. They have the mastermind of Quig behind it. John not going to have a chance to play Bebop, but he did show last week he has a deeper pool than Warden or Bebop. But considering how good he's on Warden and how kind of Warden got an indirect buff here, ZP, Is there a rumor we see him actually get to play it here in this match?
I think it's pretty likely. Also, again, we have this situation where only one team is going to get a key playmaker. I think what we saw from Crayon Eaters, though, they like Buds on the GT. GT is real strong. But it's going to be the interesting case where, okay, Melee Creeps will take Holiday in response to Crayon Eaters coming in with the GT pick. I do wonder for Melee Creeps how you do the appropriate priority here, and if you do something like you open just Holiday, Mo straight off. Or you open Holiday and then a more standard power pick like the Mirage or Geist. If it was EU, it'd probably be a Holiday into Geist, but I think you can make a case for any like Holiday plus frontline combo here, Jake.
I like the idea of Holiday Mo. I think the two of them together, it not only blocks from what, from my opinion, is one of the best counter picks to Holiday in the Mo, but also it's a really nice combo with her. So locking those down in a back-to-back pick is really ideal. The Holiday going is almost an inevitability given that Paradox Bebop are banned. I mean, this hero's first pick, even if those heroes are in the pool, and of course, with them out, you know, she's just totally unique in what she offers.
It's a pain, man, for Crayon Eaters, like not having that initiator like a Holiday, like a Paradox, like a Bebop. You kind of put yourself on the back foot, like pretty much off the get-go. But the advantage is you do have obviously the grade talent, and the amount of damage you can do from range if you can stay safe is going to be damn nutty. But are you going to be able to do it, you know, 1v6 if your team has fallen by the wayside, or at least I guess 5v6, because you would assume Melee Creeps will be able to burst down one player within that lasso alone.
Well, interestingly enough, the Mirage comes on in. I do think like the raw Mo without an extra initiator is like kind of mad, but on the same note, I think if you're Crayon Eaters, going Geist Mo would not be the worst idea here, because you get the Mo out of Holiday's hands and you secure a really good front line. Like you get two strong front lines here between the two of them, and Melee Creeps is kind of behind the 8-ball a little bit, Jake, in terms of how they're setting up their front line from here on out, because there is kind of a hierarchy, and to me, from what we've seen in this patch, Mo and Geist are like pretty significantly above other frontline options you have.
I think Yamato is probably the other reasonable choice for Crayon Eaters between Geist and Yamato. And they're going to go with it again. I think they did go for it in the last series as well. So, I mean, you know, I think there is a bit of flexibility here. You know, I think Yamato does have that explosive potential. You've already got the Mo, so you don't have to worry about being comboed on Yamato. And then being able to pop that Shadow Form to get out of something like Tornado is a nice matchup. Also purging those debuffs from Mirage. So I think, you know, it's not game breaking, but it's just a nice little matchup for Yamato.
Today isn't the day for mercy.
That's a surprising pick for me, actually. With GT on the other side, with Yamato on the other side, I'm surprised to see Yamato go this early. Or not Yamato, Vindicta, sorry, going this early.
Yeah.
I mean, but
Jason.
below main, he's also been grinding the games within this Thanos roster over in one with Bombshell. He's played Vindicta last time these two teams did meet each other. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick it up yet again. I'm also just kind of curious, what's AVG going to play? A big Abrams player in their last week's success. Is Abrams still going to be around here, considering HMC's been nerfed quite heavily, and he was one of the big proponents of it, the big users of it when it came to that matchup?
Well, given the fact that they picked Vindicta, I think yes. I think also if you're Crayon Eaters here, if you're planning on going Geist off the bans here, I think you ban the Abrams. But instead you get rid of the Calico. So, okay, that's where we're at. In turn, I think your Melee Creeps, it's kind of interesting. I don't think they get both Abrams and Geist here. I think ideally, though, if there was any chance of them getting both, you open with the Geist, and then there's a few worlds where Crayon Eaters doesn't go the Abrams. But if you don't pick Geist in this next pick, it is going to go off to Crayon Eaters, I think 100%.
I think I'll like the surface.
Interesting. They power the Viscous even higher. I mean, Vegas was doing some crazy things on the Viscous last game. Actually had the top damage stat, which I was very surprised to see in the stat screen. They also have a nice counter now to the Mo Krill, and I mean, all the initiators are banned or have been taken. Like, it's Crayon Eaters are really struggling for some kind of initiation. It's just the Mo warp stoning in and comboing somebody. There's no displacement. There's no catch. It's just grabbing somebody where they stand. And honestly, I think with Viscous on the board, it's going to be really hard for those types of initiations to actually work out well for Crayon Eaters.
Ivy here. I mean, taking it out of Quig's hands, I'm kind of like looking towards what's Quig going to play. Obviously, Kelvin was one of the big heroes that he liked to rock when he was back with the Hydra Nation roster. And I wonder what kind of like adaptations the team's been able to do with him on the team. And well, Kelvin's been taken away. So are we going to have a gun Ivy coming through out of Crayon Eaters?
Is this too crazy from Crayon Eaters? I feel like they're trying to like steal all the picks from Quig, but like I don't really see the Kelvin fitting in their draft. I mean, I guess you could heal the Yamato. Maybe you can finish with the Shiv and feel pretty okay about the front line you have.
I think that here's what it is. If you're going gun Ivy and going the VP, idea from it, it makes sense because then you have only Kelvin as your support, and now you can pick up Shiv as the last lane. The fact that we may have an undrafted Geist though is blowing my mind. That there's no way.
Melee Creeps taking it here would be so good though, right? It makes so much sense for them to grab it here. It's crazy that they got this deep in the draft and can still grab it, but I agree. I'd be very surprised to see anything other than Geist come out right now, well, especially against Kelvin.
Yeah, and they also need the front line. Okay, they go Warden for John, but my God. Okay, I actually think here, as good as Shiv Kelvin lane is, I think Geist has so much power. I would still rather see Geist get picked up by Crayon Eaters here. We'll see if that's the case or not, but it just, I don't know. Between the two heroes, Geist is way stronger than Shiv, even if you have that,
you're
really
not as reliant on the combo, right? Like you're not desperate for Kelvin, and it still helps you on Geist. I mean, you still use the heals. And Geist is going to go untouched this game. That is wild, ZP. Really, I am also really, truly surprised. I thought this would be picked, within the first 3 on either side, and instead it goes untouched in the draft. Okay, let's see how this Warden does. I do like the Melee Creeps draft. I think like stepping back, looking at it as a whole, okay, maybe I would have taken Geist over the Warden, but not the end of the world. I still think they have a nice, well-rounded draft. And honestly, I think that they've picked really nice counter matchups and denied Crayon Eaters some important tools.
I'm looking at Melee Creeps and Quig. He's played Dynamo, Ivy, Kelvin, McGinnis, Mo, and Krill in his time. And guess what? He's not going to have any of those open to him to be picked up on this roster. So for me, I think he's going to be going Sinclair. I want to kind of lean towards for some reason. Even though I believe it was Saya for Melee Creeps, I want to say was the player before. I'm just quickly checking on my
could be Viscous just being played as a support here, and
I want to.
But Viscous is a little specialist heavy. Like you want to be experienced on it. But so is Sinclair. I mean, I don't think there's that many like easy straightforward. Maybe Holiday. Is that too crazy?
I feel like it's a little bit crazy for what we've seen Quig play, because Quig is not necessarily an Obakim style player that is more like half support, half playmaker. You see that flex come out of VP. I don't think it's gonna happen for Quig. I think between the two, I think even though Viscous does have more specialist tech, I think Sinclair. Running through all the combinations, permutations, I think Quig on the Sinclair makes the most sense. And a lot of times you have seen your more Kelvin Ivy oriented player like be the one to play Sinclair. It's not a 1-to-1 rule, but it does happen more often than not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if we've seen the skill he's had on Kelvin and on Ivy in particular, like the stone forms out of him last week were ridiculous in what he was able to shut down and punish with. I feel like Sinclair would kind of fit up his alley, though we do have a little bit of a cheat sheet here. If you're curious, Jake, we do kind of know who's playing what at the moment. Then again, I'm not 100% sure those are correct, considering Poshy Pop and John and who they're sitting on here.
Yeah, I am curious to see how the playmaking comes out here for Melee Creeps, but in the end, I really just like the draft overall. I think this is a fantastic Sinclair game. You have Kelvin ult to steal, 7 ult, Mo and Krill ult in a pinch. The Yamato ult is going to be nice. So there's just so many flexible steals that I think are all going to be super powerful this game. I think John has really impressed me on Warden, and there's a real lack of catch for Crayon Eaters. It is just Mo Krill and whatever items he builds to get on top of you. I mean, maybe Kelvin can dome you. That's another sort of kind of catch there. But I think Melee Creeps have a much more straightforward and dominant draft. I think when people do get caught, Viscous is going to have a lot of impact saving them. And then, I mean, I just don't see how you're ever going to get this Vindicta or Holiday as they kind of like dance around the fight with their mobility.
Well, Jason, we got the insight from production. We took a screenshot lobby. So we were correct that it is going to be Quig onto Sinclair, but AVG, seeing that Warden is new and improved and better, said, step aside, John. It's my time to shine.
I mean, to be fair for AVG, he drew Warden pretty damn well with the hat in the face. Like, he had that hat nailed down pat in Deadlock Pictionary. As we do hop into this, I don't know. I'm still kind of with Jake as well. Like, Melee Creeps, I mean, just based off of how dominant they were last week, I expect them to take this. I think Crayon Eaters might throw a spanner in the works just because of how crazy and wild they might play and how kind of carefree they could be. 'Cause I've seen that work definitely in a lot of in other games where you don't have that like pressure of performing.
We'll have to see Crayon Eaters with a very wild draft. Definitely not disappointing fans who just want to see something different and new in this DFN. Leffa this time is going to be the one piloting the great talent. See what he can get done.
Meanwhile, Buds is going to do quite a bit of farming this game. Off onto the 7, catch Buds off in the jungle. Kind of goes back to Buds' days where Buds used to play tons of Infernus at one point. So not too dissimilar, but it is interesting how some of these decisions get made because there was also a world where Leffa was Mr. Farm, but Leffa at some point is just like, no, I'm repossessing the great talent. It is mine. That's what we're going to do here.
Last hitting off the rip though, looks decent for melee creeps. And Quig kills on the side lane there. Very dominant side lane so far. Pashi Pop and Quig. And that's a wave crashing on your tower too for Crayon Eaters. It's a very painful time to die in the opening minutes of the lane.
Yeah, I mean, you end up losing additional farm on top of it. I mean, you take a look at Crayon. Crayon's at 300 souls at the moment. Same with Rokane. You're not just behind from giving up Death Snare. You're real behind. And you look at the health equation in there too. Jake, you're the one that made the point a while back about how, if you trade on lane, it's one thing if, the other side is wounded and you can get momentum. That's not really the case.
Yeah, they're able to heal up and buy some key items on that side lane, see how they continue to apply the pressure from there. I'm also curious to see how Warden does in the lane. I think this is should in theory be the weak point for Warden, but he has been buffed, right? That improved regen and just a little bit more health and tankiness potentially could help mitigate that weakness and get Warden active a little bit sooner. I think he's a hero that you really want to start that snowball as early as possible. And already, big attack here onto Leffa takes a lot of damage, and Holiday could very much play behind the tower and become a real problem. Oh man, what a time for a boss.
AVG's power is so great on the Warden, his PC couldn't contain it. He just crashed before our very eyes. But I feel like I've seen Holidays take the angle that we're looking at here a lot today. It's usually been Holiday in middle, and always Holiday getting a little bit of damage, throwing the barrel, and then going around the left-hand side, and, a little bit of doom, perhaps, coming the way of Leffa at the moment.
She's so good at getting you low and nuking the wave that she's just naturally a hero who wants to peek you behind tower, put some more damage on you. And Mirage can help set that up too, providing the reveal with that passive. Flick, though, being that bodyguard, clearing off the side lane, not something that you want to fight even as Holiday.
No, certainly not. And I mean, Holiday, while slippery, still a little bit squishy at this point in game. Rokane, though, in real danger. Quig diving on in. Crayon, though, with the
full charge.
Somehow still alive!
Oh,
Rokane!
Sick body block.
8
Crayon with
HP. Get down, Mr. President, says Crayon.
Yeah, he actually body blocks with the Calvin, staying alive. And now this is big for Rokane. He has the souls if he wants to buy a healing ride and wants to stabilize and stay in the lane here. So Crayon Eaters fighting back. What looked like a potentially explosive early game has now been, for the most part, equalized.
Also, I mean, you can't underrate how important that is for that lane. I mean, dying again there and falling even further behind. That's usually part of the recipe of your Yamato just being support Yamato, which usually means game loss rather than the actual scary Yamato that you rely on to carry the game. So, meanwhile, take a look back at middle. You got Holiday flipping around the outside once more, and Leffa is just getting zoned so far back, Jake. Actually, a little bit wild the way middle is taking place at the moment.
Yeah, and then Flick coming to mark that, but also low under pressure. This mid lane started to turn really dominant here for the melee creeps, and they're still healthy across the map. Meanwhile, Crayon dies in the side lane, and although they got that one counter kill, it doesn't seem to really matter. Yamato very far from the ulti, could be getting chased down right now. Snipes available for Vindicta.
Yeah, we are taking a look left-hand side, but I'm curious about the mid lane, especially when you just see Holiday go that far over and onto the left. I mean, the pressure that they're enduring in middle right now, actually a little bit ridiculous. Melee creeps, the pressure between the lanes is starting to already bear some fruit here. 3K overall aggregate lead, and, Rokane still a bit away from getting ultimate up here on the left-hand side.
Vindicta baiting out some of these Calvin's kills, staying alive. Opportunity for a counter tempo here for melee creeps if they want to. Calvin has no skills, and their cooldowns are quite long. if you want to get in and start some kind of a fight. Rocane, though, very close to the ultimate, though, so it could be a threshold that you got to be worried about.
Speaking of ultimates, Lomain dropped the goo ball here, trying to run down 7, not quite have the angle, and Buds goes for the Storm Cloud, but you just don't have the HP to sustain it, or as much lifesteal as you'd like, just immediately gunned down by AVG. Meanwhile, though, the Owl coming on over, special delivery of the AVG. Is AVG going to be able to get out? Feel like the answer may be yes, but you see the Ivy chase down. Cube, though, coming on in. Ivy now switching targets, going, all right, you don't have Cube, I'm going to go for you, but the Puddle Punch actually just kind of gets Ivy out of the way, Jake.
Yeah, nice jukes by Lomain. AVG, they get the kill, they get out, they pull some attention to the side lane. Still going well for them. And we have evolved into a 4K lead here and quite a few extremely low players on Crayon Eaters. As I say that, Rocane sniped behind the tower. A well-placed bolt from Quig.
Yeah, also, momentum shifting a little bit in middle. We're starting to see Mo and Leffa get a little bit more room off the middle lane, and just power spikes there. You have to respect the combo and the threat of Owl when it's available. I think Leffa just let one fly, but AVG pretty low here on the right-hand side. It's Buds and Vegas making a little bit more room. In fact, it's going to be AVG full-on retreat back to base, and take a look at left lane. Mo has made the rotation.
See if we can get something done. I think Crayon Eaters are going to be happy to defend this tower. Kelvin's low, but he has that ulti, so it could be deceptive. Could be looking to turn things around on the Warden. Is going to come in here, pop the dome. But Warden has a nice little corner to slip into. It's pretty hard to swing that position, and Kelvin's got to fall off this.
They still have a window to fight, but okay, we got the clone Frozen Shelter here going like, no, I like it Frosty. Stay a while and listen. Down goes Crayon. How does this keep happening, by the way? Like, the last map, we saw Crayon was getting comboed repeatedly, and now Crayon's on Kelvin. It just dies in his own freezer.
Quig has such powerful ultis to copy this game. I really think he can have an explosive carry performance here. Mirage also, John getting farmed up in the mid lane. Happy to just play this one a little bit slow. And you dove in here with the Flying Strike. Yamato ulti's ending soon. This could get troublesome. They go for the combo, and the follow-up is here. Big rotation from Crayon Eater secures the kill.
Yeah, Crayon Eaters bringing the kitchen sink over here to the left lane, feeding Leffa. That's never a good sign. Here comes the Owl. Special delivery. Back over here. Just
defending mid. I like this choice.
Here.
You would probably be losing that tower if you don't do that. So I actually think that's the perfect choice. You could nuke Quig in the side lane, but I don't think it's going to really change the game. And saving that tower from John buys you quite a bit more time to return and defend that Guardian and maybe hold on to it for quite a bit longer, as there's only one player attacking it in mid.
So take a look. Kelvin right now eating a little bit of the jungle. Left lane wide open after, it going down. Interestingly enough here, so Crayon Eaters down one Guardian. But we'll see how Melee Creeps decides to rotate around, add on to it. Mid Guardian actually pretty low for Crayon Eaters. So you look at where Melee Creeps is positionally on the map, probably going to be a convergence on the middle sooner rather than later, especially if they can find Kelvin here in the jungle, which may be the goal.
Sneaking up, they hear the Kelvin, but the real target is Yamato. Doesn't have ulti online, in real trouble. Rabbit X, but the follow-up kind of awkward. Copied Yamato, not sure that's really going to make the difference. They do get the extra CDs from it, but Yamato's escaped, and now you got to fall off this play. Well done by Kelvin stabilizing that.
Jake, I'm issuing a grade 1 Leffa alert right now. The last few fights have been very good. The Owl's coming on in, on top of it. Trying to get a little bit more pressure over and in. Down goes Quig after the Owl, after the Yamato diving on in. Crayon helping pursue the Vindicta here. Nowhere for Poshi Pop to go, and the Frozen Shelter, just to make sure.
Yeah, committing everything here, but that's a very healthy Holiday. Could prove to be a difficult dive. Game is equalized for the most part. Crayon going down is good. Yamato in very deep under the tower, but has just the amount of power maybe to get a throw aside. The barrier is just in time at the last millisecond to save him. A Holiday tipped the teammate there.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous save coming on in, but just go back to what I was saying beforehand. Leffa has chained multiple kills back to back to back now, is starting to get significant separation from his team and the game as a whole. On Great Talon, one of the few characters of the game that can just be an enormous difference maker should they get ahead. So, Crayon Eaters, thrown together, may not have the most in terms of like raw team coordination, but keeping options open, Jake, for, you know, individual hero play to potentially rip this game wide open.
Here's the combo. Do they have the power shot follow-up? They're trying to pump the damage in, but yeah, Mirage is tanky, and it seems like Leffa maybe didn't have the cooldowns after missing that first power shot to actually follow up, and so the combo ends up being a fail. Jon's going to be able to heal up. I don't even think this is necessarily going to force him back to base. It's a contentious moment on the map, though, with so much jungle online, with the urn now spawning. Melee creeps look like they're going to be the ones to lean that way to pick it up, see if they go for the run.
Well, we'll see right now. Still looking the threat in middle. Vindicta in the sights. Pop holding back in turn. Everything getting a little bit aggro here in middle as we see the urn being run in turn here by Quig. Pop, though, able to take
left foot down.
The biggest pick you could get there in the moment, Jake.
Yeah, that's massive. I mean, the power of GT is that the damage is such a huge threat, but you really don't have any tankiness on this hero, and so there's something to be said for just having that target on your back when you're this farmed, and you know, the ability for somebody like Saya to just hard focus you, go for you every single fight on the holiday. Leffa is going to have to be very cautious to not die first in these opening engagements. Really can't be caught out with a net worth like that.
So they're actually giving GT a lot of farm. They made the conscious decision, Leffa, go get big. We will fight this with shelter and just go for the urn. Or it seems to be the case. It might have changed the other way around. It looks like Leffa gonna take the TP. They're actually gonna full commit, but while they do this, down Crayon, the fight has already taken place. So this is gonna be GT getting to fight a little bit late. Opportunity right now for melee creeps. Ricane getting forced back, not getting a ton of value off the Shadow transformation. See him drop on back. The urn turned in here by Quig, and you know, I think their initial plan was better. I would have rather have just had Leffa go to left and get farm.
Yeah, I mean, giving up the urn is pretty painful at the same time. So Leffa wants to get into the fight. They know how easy it is for a lead like this to get out of control. 6K lead now for melee creeps. They look to expand it, look to maybe open that right side Guardian soon. And Vindicta rotating that way. Seems like she's on the same page. This is a scary moment, especially for somebody like Seven. Bud's also pretty farmed, also in a pretty decent spot. If he gets caught off here, the tower is most certainly going to go down.
Melee creeps right now, trying to turn the 7K lead into something even more definitive. As you take a look at Quig. Quig is kind of deep behind enemy lines, doing a little bit of vault diving. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, he's a hard hero to catch, right? Sinclair has a lot of escape options, a lot of trickery you can pull if you do get ganked, and stealing a few of those enemy camps away is a nice small objective you're able to grab and start to expand that lead, right? These are the type of things that a more coordinated team might be a little bit tighter on the timings for, but it's something that melee creeps can press their advantage here in this match.
I think Quig is keen to steal a Stormcloud here, potentially. Both Stormcloud, Frozen Shelter, incredible ult copies for Quig if that turned into a bigger engagement, but for now, is not quite exploded. Melee creeps, you know, taking their jungle. Crayon Eaters also just trying to stabilize. Again, still at the point in the game where fights are relatively winnable for both teams. Next fight, though, it's kind of the case where melee creeps can lose a fight and it's going to be even. But if Crayon Eaters lose one more fight, they're getting very, very close to it being over.
Yeah, I still think there's probably a few fights to work with, but I think you're right. Melee creeps, you know, if you give them a pretty significant advantage, this is the real value you get as a team that's a little bit more practiced, is just how good you are at closing out with a lead, how consistent you are at turning a small advantage into a big one. And that's what melee creeps have done in the past to win some of these games. And they're not really forcing anything. They're just content to play the map, content to try to farm just a little bit more efficiently than their counterparts. Historically, that was the team Hydranation's advantage, right? They were just better on the macro play, but melee creeps has really caught up.
And I will shut up. I love us doing loop-de-loops. Meanwhile, AVG getting the combo, going for last stand. Is he gonna be able to turn it here as Warden? Getting the life drain back the other way is AVG. AVG, though, getting punished from behind. Still, somehow staying alive. Just barely stays alive long enough for Saya to come in for the save. And that's the advantage when you're a bit ahead of the game as Warden. What would have been certain death turns into a win.
Yeah, AVG on this Warden. So much power. Now low main, rolling around, putting some pressure down. And this Guardian is extremely low, only being protected by the shelter. And with no shelter, yeah, there's the dive coming in. Stormcloud's over the top. Maybe this is enough to zone away some of these players, but yeah, it just can't last forever. And melee creeps taking a massive edge in this game.
Yeah, and now for melee creeps, you know, for Crayon Eaters, you're now down, getting close to 20K, it's close to the 15. You're out of chances here. You really need to get a pick sooner rather than later. And, you know, realistically, you're looking to Leffa, you're looking to Flick, and okay, that's a start. Rokane able to isolate Saya into the jungle. Another owl out and on the way. Runs into low main, nearly killed low main, actually.
Yeah, just not quite enough damage at this phase in the game. Great talent. 3k souls, see what they'll buy. I mean, melee creeps are so on point with these timings. Like they're on the right side of the map. They're in control of this urn, and it looks like they're going to be able to turn this into an Ivy kill. Maybe she flies away, but yeah, the follow up is there. John has that cleanup damage.
Well, as we step through the fight, this is a good time to bring in Dan. You know, Dan, what have you seen here as the lead? Or sorry, Jason. Bring in Jason. You know, what have you seen here as the lead is again high, and we got the clone to Ivy doing the urn.
Yeah, again, like we were talking about, what are we going to see Quig on, and you're kind of seeing the power of him, not only in the early game with what he was able to do, get initial like double kill for him and Poshy Pop, but the fact is he's very mechanically gifted as a player, and it's really cool to see him flex out to other things other than Kelvin. But what I'm seeing, man, is that AVG, he's able to hold his own in a 1v2 at 17,000 souls. He is leading the lobby by quite a bit. I know we talked about Leffa as being the player to get the souls intentionally fed over to him, but honestly, he's just on par, if just barely ahead of a couple of the other players. Like John's still farming up extremely well. The 16k of John can, you know, fend up well against Leffa at 15k. But then you have Crayon at 9,000 souls. He's fallen drastically behind. Obviously, it's Frozen Shelter is what it's really going to be about. But with the lead that, you know, melee creeps have, 12k and growing, it's very difficult for Crayon Eaters to come back, especially with all these big ultimates that Quig could steal.
They're just going to Warden ulti, rip it to zone away some of these defenders. Jumps come in.
Interrupt into the shelter, but your Kelvin hits at 9k. You don't have much in the way of survivability. Flick, though, taking the fight. The AVGs thought they're going to be there. No, instead, instantly interrupted by low main. Just running the mole right over. Should have stayed in the ground. As melee creeps make all sorts of room. They get the urn turn in. And Jake, I feel like we've passed the event horizon now. Even with the 2 kills towards the end, melee creeps really starting to get a very definitive advantage. But okay, if you're gonna feed kills at the end, you don't want to do it to the Amato and the Talon. That's how the game stays alive.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of players are extremely low on melee creeps. I don't think they can really stay in this fight. A couple nice exits there, stabilize things a bit. But in the end, the fact that the melee creeps, they get that urn turn in, makes it all worth it in the end. A little bit of a momentary power play on the map for the Crayon Eaters. Let's see what they try to do with it. Maybe they want to accomplish something. Seems like just farming the jungle is going to be good enough for the moment. But I agree with you, ZP. I think the game is slipping away from them because we scale a little bit deeper into the late game. The objective play advantage for melee creeps is really starting to pay dividends.
Also, I think at some point you do need some farm on your Kelvin. Like, yes, you don't need as much farm as your high heroes, but Crayon is long past the point of dropping shelters and just being the first one to instantly die. Like, no matter who he gets in the shelter, they could look at Crayon and just go, goodbye.
He's also at that soul total. I mean, you're also just, your skills aren't that powerful. You're not getting into that many tier 3s, and you know, it just adds up, right? You're not doing as much healing. You know, in the end, even the supports want to get a decent amount of farm, especially in Deadlock with the amount of splitting there is. But so far, melee creeps have just completely dominated their side of the map, and the opponents, I mean, the jungle's empty. There's not much to do on the Crayon Eater side of the map. And you see, look at the melee creeps position. They're not interested in doing their own jungle. They're staying aggressive and trying to contest always these challenging middle camps.
I also think for Crayon Eaters, you know, you kind of, it brings back the idea of, okay, GT doesn't get banned. You go GT. And GT is quite powerful, but when you're in these situations and you're down a bit souls-wise, you know, you do wonder if there's part of you that just yearns for the ability to have a Paradox or a Holiday to set up kills. I mean, you got the Mo, but the ranged ability to just see people and go in is huge. But okay, speaking of that, see people, go in, punch here. Over and into AVG. AVG, though, combo's over. The last stand is in. It's like, uh-oh, time to go back. However, power shot's coming on in. Holiday getting crunched. You're going to see Buds dropping the Storm Cloud. Has to be some decent value for how it's set up. And now, here comes the Owl. Doom approaching in and over. Is it going to find Saya? Is the question. AVG, meanwhile, able to punish Flick. The Owl still chasing around. It's actually looking for Saya, but he's going to find it in time. Frozen Shelter going to be dropped here in by Crayon. Crayon still thinking they have an advantage here to look for. Pashipop Getting really low. Opportunity here. Punch pop down into the sewer. Kelvin in the pursuit here. Needs it. Can't finish it off. Oh boy, Jake. So close yet so far.
Pachi Bob with a lot of unsecured souls here. Wants to get out scouting the Ivy, trying to TP out. Just playing this room to perfection. I think Ivy tanky enough to make it out through that teleporter. And I mean, Leffa just dropped every power shot in that fight. It just wasn't enough. He ran out of cooldowns. And somebody like Warden, right, with that Spirit Shield ability actually stands a fair chance at tanking through some of that. This is a huge, decisive fight in the game. Melee creeps, everyone living on low HP. They trade the pressure immaculately. And now they're really in position. They have a lot of time to clear their own jungle and just solidify this lead.
Urn picked up by Quig. Crayon Eaters will be back up in a moment, but now things get even worse. And I think part of the area where things get really bad here is that you talk about soul allocation, who you don't want to be ahead of the game. AVG is now firmly at a point where there's no great answers on the other side. I mean, the best case scenario for melee creeps would be you land with a combo and then have both Buds and Leffa ready to pour damage in the AVG, but short of that, Jake, he's not going down. He's going to be able to use Last Stand and just run down Crayon Eaters in the front line.
Yeah, and I like that the improved Spirit Armor too knows that how much of the damage in this game is coming from Leffa and Rokane and Buds too. I mean, like they're very heavy on a spirit damage emphasis, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of improved Spirit Armors for melee creeps, as I think that's going to offer massive dividends in their tankiness. Aggressive Urn turn-in might be a bridge too far, though. I mean, even though you are quite strong in this spot, I'm not sure that it's going to feel good trying to turn in on the Crayon Eater side of the map.
Just look at Leffa hanging on to the power shot, surveying the terrain, being like, surely I could send this at someone. Meanwhile, more income acquisition coming on in from AVG over to the left-hand side. However, pressure comes on in, and Rokane just dies. They're not able to take that fight off. I mean, seemed ill-advised to try and contest that. The Walker ends up going down. Another Walker the way of melee creeps. And now, another skirmish here on the right-hand side. Clone combo coming on in. Quig, though, may have bit off more than a chew. Get a rescue beam back. One down for
Nice save from low main. They're trying to bring the Urn back into their territory, but melee creeps are hot on the chase here. Trying to turn this into a team fight, feeling like they can press an advantage.
Well, they're looking for it. The frozen shelter goes down, but the Urn has yet to be turned in. It is still available. It's going to be picked up by Sai here. They not only get the Kelvin, they get the Urn turn in after. And Jake, you talk about definitive moments. This one, pretty much about done. With now, it's at the point where you need just ridiculousness to happen, because before you could have a world where Leffa lands power shots into an owl and gets a pick off just by the raw power of GT. Not going to happen with the difference in economy here, especially as it looks like the mid boss should be secured.
Another improved Spirit Armor on Saya. I'm actually just curious to see who doesn't have an improved Spirit Armor on melee creeps. I mean, now that I see there's just so much spirit damage on Crayon Eaters, it's really hard for them to get through those armors. We're seeing big value. Fight going down, though, around the pit now. Let's see. Big parries from both sides. Oh my god, for the Reju. Okay, it still goes the way of melee creeps. That one was scary.
Yeah, I mean, Rokane, decent attempt at trying to get a steal, but still outgunned as AVG says, I shook, OMG. Come on, man, what are you shaking for? Even if Crayon Eaters gets the Rejuvenator, it's almost a curse. Like, I was talking about this with Lightbringer a little bit before. It's like, if you're the losing team and you get Rejuvenator and you need economy, on one hand, you get the Rejuvenator so you're not facing it. On the other hand, all your waves are going to push up so you can't safely farm when you need farm the most. So, I think melee creeps would have been fine even if the steal went down.
Yeah, I mean, their lead is such that they could tolerate it. I still think a Reju helps, in the end, still just gets you on the map, allows you to farm some jungle. And you hear Warden now diving in. Huge connection, though, from the ultimate. Everybody, and Kelvin just says, you stay, I go.
The honorable sacrifice, keeping the Warden involved as Kelvin dies once more in his own Arctic wasteland. But at 164k, the 117k, not much left on here. And Jason is back in the fray. So Jason, you got any words here? I'm not even gonna do the standards. Like, tell me about how Crayon Eaters gets back into this game, because I don't think you can weave the impossible.
I think all I really can say is I told you so. When it came to this matchup, you didn't believe I know we were on opposite ends of the spectrum of how we thought this game would play out. And to be fair, you want to give some hope to Crayon Eaters. And there definitely was a world at some point where like Lefa could pop off. But I think that the big problem is you're going up against a full team. And their lane matchups are going to be so strong because of the synergy they're going to have of all playing together before. Obviously, you do have like Lefa, Rocane, Flick currently on the iteration right now of Hydronation. Vegas previously on it, and Buzz had subbed in before. But you're never going to have that same level of synergy. So at some point, there's going to be a crack in the defense. And it came into that like left-hand lane. It came into AVG being fed over farm at 35,000 souls. I almost want to say he could like 1v3, 1v4 with his last stand-up.
I wonder if when he goes there, he has 9k souls actually. It's such a big buy for Warden as he comes out on the map. Surely a lot stronger. As now the earn run being attempted, and this is one I think Melee Creeps are almost definitely going to go for on the Crayon Eater side of the map. Combo comes in, but just no follow-up.
It's hitting Warden, and Warden is, just in the realm of that tickles. Frozen Shelter gonna be dropped here by Crayon, where Krez had a huge rip, just died within the Frozen Shelter. Last stand though, in from AVG, in turn, totally okay with the cold. Still chasing on down, finishes off Vegas. And, here, you can just run into the base at this point. You've killed 3, you just keep on pushing, and you put an end to the first map of our money match.
Yeah, that should be all she wrote here. Melee Creeps still have to knock the Patron, but I mean, they have so much damage. They're so ridiculously far ahead. I don't even know that the Crayon Eater players are going to spawn. I think they might just be coming up. But when you get wiped that quick, that fast in succession, even the Patron respawn buff isn't usually enough.
Second stage Patron coming on in, and, sometimes you take it easy here. You wouldn't take risks. You're up a dramatic amount of souls right now. You have the edge in every conceivable way. Maybe you wait a second for Warden to get last stand, but I don't think you need to do even that. The Patron getting whittled on down. It's going to be Melee Creeps taking the first map in the money match here in North America. Deadlock Fight Night number 23 presented by Intel. And we'll see if Crayon Eaters have any adjustments going on forward. But, to me, Jake, even as good as GT is, I don't love compositions where you don't have a Paradox or Holiday and the other team has it. Though from what we've seen here today, it usually doesn't end up well.
I was really impressed by the way Melee Creeps played that draft. I feel like they engineered that circumstance by banning the Paradox, giving the first pick over to their opponent. They say, hey, well, you could have the GT, but we're gonna take like too much advantage in the rest of the draft. We're gonna use our bans to really just deny you a core part of the lineup. And Crayon Eaters aren't really able to recover from that. They aren't really able to execute their draft. Like, they have some strong pieces, but they're missing some of the tools that they're used to relying on. And I think that's just really well done by Crayon Eaters, or rather by Melee Creeps, understanding that they can create an advantage without necessarily having, like, let's say, the #1 pick of the meta.
So to bring in he who is predicting the blowout, and I'm not gonna say it's the most ambitious prediction, but it is the right one in this case. Jason, thoughts on the game?
I think I mostly summed it up to what I said before last time I came on. It's just like it's so difficult to go up against a team in these lanes when they have the synergy. When you see like Quig and Poshipop immediately popping off in that lane on the left-hand side for some early kills, which I believe you're seeing like relatively here, right? The tether hits.
Oh, that's pain.
Low HP for Rocane. Actually, no, this is the pain for actually Quig, to be fair. Using the power slash to actually give him the bullet resist he needs to survive the onslaught out of Quig. But I think the cool thing, like at the end of the day, obviously it is a very one-sided match. It is cool to see Melee Creeps flexing out to some different heroes, like seeing Quig again kind of expand his roster a little bit. John as well in particular, be able to expand some things. Then AVG going over to a Warden. Like, we're seeing some hero depth in Melee Creeps, which I think was maybe a little bit lacking in the past.
I was impressed by the Warden performance from AVG. I mean, the hero's been growing in popularity just a little bit from that recent patch and looked amazing this game. I don't think that's just the hero. I think AVG piloted it super well. I also feel Quig was great on the Sinclair. We talked about him like having not played it in the past, but he's been gone for a while, has had the opportunity to grind, and has now, I mean, if you have a really great Sinclair, it feels like you can almost pilot anything, and Quig has been so stable on all of his picks. I'm not shocked to see it, but it definitely makes playing against Melee Creeps a lot more difficult now.
Well, as highlights come to a close, really Melee Creeps looking strong the whole way through. Crayon Eaters did keep it interesting for a little bit. I did also, by the way, love the idea that even if you get Quig off the Ivy, Quig still has the attachment with the Ivy, clones the Ivy for a little bit of earned transport. So, still got a little bit of Ivy game time in, even off on the Sinclair. But that was map number 1. Melee Creeps, 1 map away for being your champion of Deadlock Fight Night North America once more. But Crayon Eaters, they got a lot of talent. We'll see if they change things up as we head into what could be the final map right after this break. We are back here at Deadlock Fight Night North America. The money match continues, as always, presented by Intel. Melee Creeps on the verge of being the champion once more against the fearsome Crayon Eaters. A whole bunch of talented players from different walks here in the Deadlock scene. Bob ZP here with Jake. And Jake, overall, we saw the consistency of Melee Creeps really come into play as the game took shape.
Yeah, we shouldn't sugarcoat it, ZP. Melee Creeps look like a drastically stronger team. They leveraged their advantage. They showed us even new diversity of picks, which is a great sign for them, I think, going into a new patch, that they aren't stuck on the old script or relying on things that they were playing before. They were playing a very new and different draft, and they really attacked Crayon Eaters even in the very beginning of the draft phase with an innovative ban strategy that really denied Crayon Eaters any kind of like catch or playmaking that they were really hoping to find somewhere in the draft. So you got to give it to Melee Creeps. They look super dominant. I see no reason why this wouldn't be a 2-0.
Also, I see no reason why I wouldn't bring back Dan right now. That's right, Dan. We're not leaving you out in the cold. We're bringing you right back into the segment. I am apologizing for my sins, really.
It's fine. It's fine, ZP. I'm kind of concerned that you're still thinking about it. There's an interesting sign. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Jason, we might be in and out.
Yeah, it's a possibility. However, here's what I think. I think the universe lives to torture Jason, where it recognizes his harms that he has committed upon the world. It recognizes, things he has caused. And to me, Jason, someone right now who, enjoys an early bedtime, generally speaking, nah. I think the universe will smite Jason in particular, but reward us with a 3-map series here should Crayon Eaters be able to come out with a stronger draft. And speaking of drafts, I think we're about ready to go into it, see what is going to be at stake.
Bro, chill. You got to wake up the same time I do in like 5 hours. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, but I would like to see, I'm okay seeing you burn, even if I take myself along with it. It's all for the entertainment value, really.
I will say, I think there's an opportunity for Crayon Eaters to change things up here. If they want to take a different first pick, they're going to opening ban the Bebop. But I'm curious if the Paradox response ban comes in, does Crayon Eaters still take the GT? Do they still value it that highly? Or do they realize what happened in the last draft where you got like all the playmakers stolen away from you? Maybe you could still find some ones that you want. I mean, in fairness, they did use a Lash ban on the second ban from Melee Creeps, but for Crayon Eaters, will you take Lash in the first 3? That feels pretty rough too.
You shouldn't. And I think if you're Crayon Eaters, you call the bluff, take Holiday. Do not fall into the GT trap. Just go with the meta we've seen all day long. Grab Holiday, grab the Mo after, get some control in your life, and find a way to deal with the GT after. I do think it's interesting, though, when you take down the Paradox, because if you yourself want to grab the GT, Paradox arguably even better at like grabbing the GT out of the sky, but
You can only run from
really
the law
change
for
it up.
so
Yes.
long.
Okay. I'm good with this. This
I
is the
agree.
change-up
I
want to
think you're forced to do this. However, I think this also engineers a scenario for the Melee Creeps where you can get both GT, you could get like GT Mirage here. And although, yeah, your draft has some problems, like you're not really resolving, it's like, well, we got GT Mirage, we just don't care. I mean, I think that is an oversimplification, but there's something to be said for Melee Creeps having an opportunity to respond here.
My bow is yours.
All right, there we go. We've got GT and Mirage, you say? Cool. I don't
It's my
see any-
expectation. I mean, I don't know what are you going to take like a Mo here? Maybe you actually do take Mo here. Like as crazy as that is, but last game they prioed the Mirage over the Mo, but maybe this game because they don't have the Holiday, maybe that bumps the Mo up.
I know you said
think
Mo, but you seemed upset when you said it, so I'm hoping Mirage for your sake
You're
at this
under my
point.
protection.
There you go. All right.
Okay,
Okay. Fantastic. Phenomenal.
okay. Truthfully, Mo Yamato here. Yes, you give up the Sinclair. I think it's worth it. You get incredibly strong front line that really right now cannot be replicated the other way. I would love to see Mo Yamato here. I think for sure Yamato is going to go in the next 2 picks. I just don't know if Crayon Eaters values the Mo on the same level. I think they should. It'd be good. They got 1 out of 2. Jake, do Does
I
that
think
mole
Crayon
walk
Eaters
through the door?
values Mo. I think they do value Mo. I do expect him to take it here. I think it's too good with the holiday. It's too good against the holiday, you know, by picking it. If they don't take it, I think they'll be banning it. But then I guess Melee Creeps do have one more pick, which I don't think you can give them. I think they might steal a Mo if you do let it.
I feel like we could save a lot of trouble if we just recognize that we hold the power, we can set the rules, and in theory, if you want to play in DFN, we could pick we could pick the drafts for everybody. What do you guys think? Huh?
They did it. That's
We
why I
should do
think, Dan,
on next year on April Fools, we'll do like the worst possible draft. The commentators compete to draft the worst possible set of 6 heroes.
Well, that should be a
well,
sick idea.
how can we compete with One Win, who earlier today picked the Lash McGinnis draft? Like, they already won, Jake. They
I was
already
saying
won.
McGinnis is my first pick. McGinnis is a tier 1, baby.
Ooh, early Viscous. Interesting. Okay.
I mean, the holiday Mo Krill like lasso into combo is too ridiculous, right? So the Viscous is a way to respond to that I actually really like, especially that you have this great talent who the enemy's going to want to catch. Maybe you can save him and like disrupt the fight from there with your role. I can see the theory here.
Yeah, that does make sense. Like you're preventing your ability to handle that stuff getting banned. So that makes sense. I'm curious where the Geist is going to fall here. I feel like obviously Geist is hot right now.
Yeah, for Geist to go untouched was crazy last series. I suspect it'll be coming in this draft, but we'll see. I feel like Crayon Eaters maybe wants it a little bit more, given that they have the Yamato. They already have the catch that they need. Melee Creeps maybe has the damage they're looking for. I don't know how high they really want to prio more damage heroes.
If you're Melee Creeps, I think you take the Yamato here, no question. It's also quite
Yamato
good
taken.
against what's it called? You taking the Geist here is really good just because it works against the Yamato in turn. And Crayon Eaters still very well could grab Geist for an unholy triple front line. I think you get one opportunity to do this right, and you grab the Geist. If you don't grab it, and Crayon Eaters is adapting and just reflecting on the day, it goes pretty rough. I mean, I don't hate Sinclair. You get options here, but I don't know. I mean, if this turns into Geist, it's still maybe a tough day for Melee Creeps.
All right, Sinclair is just budget Mo and budget Holiday. Is like just copy their ulties, and then you're sort of like that hero, you know. Like, and honestly, the Mo copy we've seen look pretty good today as a way to shut down Mo when he goes for his combo. You just combo him first, and he's overextended and can get bursted down.
No more hiding.
It's actually a really good point. Whoa. It actually makes me feel like a really sick ban would have been the Sinclair actually on the second round instead of the Calico. For that very reason, because I hadn't even considered that Sinclair can basically be your like budget initiator.
And Rabbit Hex also it's not bad, right? It is, at least it's like some form of range control, range CC. You know, you have something like the Tornado or Viscous roll to set it up and kind of guarantee the connection.
Time for an adventure.
I do like this though with like I think like Pocket Kelvin, Mokrill, Yamato. I do feel like there's a lot of synergy here, especially off of the combos. You just can burst people down just instantaneously. So it feels like you're enabling Pocket to some extent. Also, it feels like you have options to maybe like get Pocket a decent lane potentially. With that said, the early laning from Melee Creeps looks pretty nice right now. So let's see how they finish off the 5th and 6th position now.
I wonder if they would take an Abrams here. Oh, they get the Geist, of course. I think Abrams could be a decent 6th here. Maybe some more control. I think just any kind of extra lockdown you can get that makes Mo and Holiday's life harder, that makes Pocket's life harder, or trying to burst Kelvin. I think they already have some of that in the draft, but I think you probably want even more to reliably be able to catch some of these big team fighting heroes from Crayon Eaters.
Also, Dan, you're striking me as a bit of a Pocket apologist right now with all the drafts today where, you know, we've seen Pocket overall in Deadlock the last few days really have a downturn. And you're just the one guy being like, no, Pocket's still got one in him, man. Like, Pocket's still going to be the dude. It's like, come on, man. Pocket may be over. And look.
Hey, man, I've just seen so many times Pocket fall out of the meta, then people are like, oh, yeah, he's actually still sick. So I'm just, you know, and also we had him on a game earlier today. On Wolfie actually played it really well. And I feel like the rest of his team let him down. So
I will say, I think Pocket is the #1 hardest hit hero by the E-Shift nerf. Because he's, I think, the most reliant on E-Shift of any hero in the game. Because you can use E-Shift as like a second briefcase, or like you can throw your cape and E-Shift and then TP it. Like there's some Pocket only kind of combos that, since he has it in his native kit on the briefcase, it's more or less the same thing. Then you know, I think it's natural that it's so good for him and really benefits the playstyle. So curious to see how this plays. Crayon Eaters, I mean, they have the Kelvin, but I'm not the Maku's Kelvin healing here.
you think that the Shiv pick was bait? That they're like, oh, we'll take the
I
Shiv
wonder if
and
they,
have it.
I mean, they definitely wanted to take it away from Crayon Eaters. I think they have to believe that it's actually decent for that. I don't think they're going to just like totally throw to pick it. And I think I can see Shiv like offering a bit of snowball and frontline utility here and you know, burst, being able to maybe fight down some of these, like if you go for a combo on Mo Krill. But I can also see Shiv getting comboed, getting lassoed, and maybe struggling in the front line.
We'll see how it goes. Also, you know, a little bit of Ring chat participation here. We got Kayluza coming on in saying, hi, I love Deadlock and I love Deadlock Fight Night. Well, we love the viewers in turn. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this journey every Wednesday night. It is a pleasure. But Jake, we're getting on into it. We will see if this is Pocket's redemption arc or another warning about the problem of picking the man or picking the Pocket with the briefcase here and in the moment. We'll see.
Let's see how the GT works out this game for Melee Creeps. It's been such a top tier pick across EU, NA having some different draft approaches that are mitigating some of the success. I'm also curious to see how this Viscous plays in the mid lane. Big nuking potential on the early game trades. This right click so powerful on the Viscous.
A little bit of pocket cam from our reservers, and we got lane swap.
Wow, a full lane swap. Double lane swap from both sides.
I love it. I actually do love it. I wish teams would do this more. I think it makes a lot of sense when otherwise you are locked into the lane for about 8 minutes without help. I think sacrificing a tiny bit of farm, if that, to get the lane matchup you want, I think it's very worthwhile, Jake.
Yeah, I could believe it. I mean, and then it begs the question of, is it worth counter lane swapping? But I think the meta hasn't quite developed to that state just yet. This is the stable lane, of course, of the three. Both teams willing to take the matchup here. Viscous in trouble here. Swarmed and, yeah, jumped on by this Kelvin. John fighting it out 1v2, but, oh, the parry as well. Nice read.
Just right there when you think it's going to be a trade. No, not at all. Parry comes in, right place, right time. Now, I wonder if they counter lane swap here, but no, it's not going to be the case because, you know, if you go back to base anyways, maybe just take the zip line over the left and you have one person rotate back over and use that as a method of swapping the swap, but not going to be the case.
Still not necessarily blowing the game open, but a nice advantage here for the Pocket. A very early ench barrier, giving some spirit and cooldown reduction, but not giving like the long-term sustainability. Interesting seeing that item come first. I guess it does give you pretty significant flat HP if you consider that spirit shield as HP.
Well, for now, Crayon Eaters definitely off to a good start here in the game thus far. And a quick pause. As we at some point we got to ask what's going on with AVG's computer. Second crash of the night for Melee Creeps, just averaging one crash a game. You know, Dan, you're big on performance coaching. What about just general hardware etiquette, hardware hygiene to prevent situations like this?
What do you mean? Like just not using stuff that doesn't work?
Yeah, basically. I mean, look, I guess clearly I caught you unawares because, you know, you can talk about the personal reports all day, all night, but, you know, just keeping viruses off your PC.
Oh, dude, I'm an idiot with that kind of stuff. I got so many viruses right now. Probably just gave you one.
How do you say that with a smile? It's like, nah, dude, I got so many viruses. Like, my credit card gets charged like 8 times a week.
I'm not even surprised they allow me to do this show. We connect to the same voice, aren't they?
Well, in any case, see how things develop here, but I do really enjoy the holiday mo setup that Crayon Eaters has here. And, you know, Jake, as soon as we get to the 3K mark, that's where I think you look at the scaling of both teams. It is on Crayon Eaters to get ahead in the early mid game, you know, secure about a 15-20K soul lead, and, you know, ideally just pressure Melee Creeps in most avenues and try and convert that into early Guardians and, you know, a bit of jungle stealing.
Yeah, I still think game extremely even on the edge of a knife here in the laning phase. Nice nuke, though, onto Viscous. Does sort of hurt for Saya, who really wants to get a few levels in, but the pressure is starting to be poured on by Pocket. Now Geist feeling the 2v1 on the side.
Geist, again, real low, and nerfed pocket damage says what?
I mean, I guess the Spirit Barrier really paying dividends. He actually has pretty insane nuking power on this pocket, as this is going to be massive damage on the Guardian. I mean, this is a dream scenario, finding those kills, taking the Guardian down to half. This is just the early game snowball that you're hoping for on Crayon Eaters.
Yeah. Right now, not looking too shabby. That much is for sure. But over here, Lomain finding Crayon. You know, the one upside, well, actually, no, it's not an upside. Crayon is on the Amato here. We haven't really talked about that here just yet. And, you know, I wonder if Quig is going to copy Yamato ult and just chase down Crayon, just to continue the meme that has been going on all day long today.
Yeah, I feel like this is a moment, though, for the pocket to really snowball. Vegas could have a big game here. Early start, dominating on pocket. And combos up here. Sinclair may have dove too deep, flying a little bit close to the sun. Instead, it's going to be the combo onto Pashi Pop. Do they have the damage follow-up? 7 ultis, but it seems like they're out of trouble for now. Mo, so strong, looking to 1v2.
Calling in the Air Force, Lomain.
Oh,
With the owl going, and 7 is gone. But just hit the nitros, got back over the base. Meanwhile, Quig getting caught. Modo in some real danger here. Pashi Pop heading on over. The Scorn comes on in, and Flick just buys enough time. Jake gets a little bit of HP and gets off to safety.
Yeah, and meanwhile in mid, I mean, the fact that the Frozen Shelter came down and with no kills is great for melee creeps. I think that was a very worrisome moment. Affliction and Frozen Shelter, being able to survive that bodes well for their stability in this lane. So they look to regroup a little bit, and even Pocket is a little bit low. Doesn't have the shield for a little bit here. Wonder if there's an opportunity for melee creeps to fight back and maybe find some kills.
I do wonder if they're even like aware of the, like, obviously you see the barrier come on in, but you know, even at the pro level play, I don't know if how much there's an idea of like, okay, watch out, he's doing less damage for this point, etc. It feels a little bit more vibe oriented that at times. Even though from an analytical point of view, we could look at that and be like, yeah, you know, maybe he wants to wait till the shield comes back.
Yeah, I mean, just reducing his overall damage output and the cooldown reduction with that Enchantress Barrier. Diving, threatening at least. And it's a little bit scary, though, with John on the Geist, right? You don't want to overextend and commit for a kill that you can't quite finish off. At the same time, for John, I mean, hitting that health swap against Pocket, sometimes not so easy. That Suitcase obviously can turn the fight around on you very easily.
Well, I mean, the problem is that the burst is quite high, so if your timing is off at all, you're just going to die without a whole lot of warning. Goes on in, looks for it, a little bit back. Meanwhile, off over in the left lane, Flick running afoul of Pashi. Where did Flick take a look there? No, combos off. Meanwhile, AVG out of nowhere, over and in. Execute in onto Lefa. Crayon, though, since it's time, goes in, drops Chow transformation.
Oh, big heal.
Yeah, that was a nice melee lifesteal. And what in the world? The movement? Surely Shiv doesn't get away, but look at Yamato just getting punched in the back. Oh, the double parry! Oh, another parry! What is going on? Crayon, the absolute god here in the moment, parrying when he needs it most, gets the lifesteal after, who keeps Lomain there long enough for Left to get back into the fight. Unreal sequence of events coming in from Crayon.
Oh my god, he was so dead to rights, and they both went for the classic blunder of trying to finish with the quick melee at the same time. What a turnaround from Crayon there. And I mean, that is more of that, man. Crayon Eaters really playmaking, really relying on the individual skill, but it's paying off. Melee creeps, quite a few players are low as well, struggling to stabilize into the lane. The swap comes in onto Kelvin, but he seems to be pretty okay here if he can hide away. He does have Frozen Shelter if things get too hairy.
It seemed a little aggro for the swap. I mean, ideally, the threat of swap is almost as effective as the swap itself, and going in there to go for the mid-air swap onto a Kelvin that already has like a pretty advantageous position with Ice Path, I'm not in love with that maneuver, because now you just want to dive the Geist in turn. Your Pocket has no worry about that in turn. But here we go. Seeing Kelvin right now. Frozen Shelter fading. Now heading away, getting the Frozen Nade onto himself. But this time around, gonna be drained of life entirely. The rotation just working out a bit better for melee creeps here in mid.
Yeah, bringing numbers. That protects both. their mid Guardian. And now with 3 players here, I wonder if they're going to be able to take down this enemy mid Guardian. Seven's rotating over to try and stop it. Buds recognizes that, yeah, like this extra player, the longer spawns a little bit deeper into the game. And despite the opening of mid lane going so incredibly well for Crayon Eaters, Melee Creeps are the ones to take the Guardian first. And if they can continue to make this defense, that advantage is going to compound over time.
You know, looking at economy allocation, though, things not too shabby right now for Crayon Eaters, especially with Crayon just getting that incredible boost off the fight that probably shouldn't have won, but did with timely parries. Meanwhile, Kelvin just getting dove on repeatedly, where, guys, no fear whatsoever. You have Pocket coming in, the support. Goes on in, drops the Affliction. How much do you want the Kelvin? You want pretty bad, but are you going to get out unscathed afterwards? Is the question, and I guess the answer is yes. I'm looking at the mini map and Vay's like, I'm not chasing that man. Like, it's cool. Not so much for Kelvin, but hey.
I mean, rotations are where we would expect the melee creeps to be strong. They've equalized the game off the back of those. Although Viscous seems to be going down here, although no burst skills left for Pocket. Maybe won't be able to chase down Saya. Yeah, he does escape, and I wonder, has he gone too deep here? Should have the cloak in a second, so probably no issues to get out of that one.
I see Krill.
So another Guardian going down, melee creeps. Macro advantage seemingly pretty big here in terms of rotations being a little bit cleaner, getting better focus onto the Guardians, but meanwhile, shifting gears here. Buds, drop the stack charge. Mo, a little bit of fisticuffs, and Quig is mega dead there. I don't really think the Stormcloud was necessarily needed. But now, the follow through in the Owl punishing flick. Part of why Grey Talent is so good, able to turn fights where you have the advantage and the one where you are just gone. So, ends up being more of a trade.
Shiv jumping up to the high ground, seeing if he can get out of that one. And Low Man gets yanked, but the pause comes in. This time Vegas, not AVG's fault this time.
Yeah, okay, I was about to say.
Your excuse, Vegas.
I swear to God, if AVG... No way. I just cannot believe that that is actually... His table collapsed under the weight.
Oh my God.
Live POV of Vegas dying. Oh my God, what is going on here? Vegas may be dead with unpaused, so clearly he's alive, or at least, you know, there's a little necromancy going on in Crayon Eaters. It's pandemonium here on Deadlock Fight Night is what we're getting right now. And, you know, Dan, I'll call you in here, even though it might just turn into an immediate fight. Okay, Crayon, I don't know if it's going to happen again. I was calling in Dan, but you're actually just getting gunned down by Viscous, and it will not be parries for days one more time. But, Dan, what's on your mind?
I don't know what to make of this table collapse. Is this just jokes? I mean, he's still running around. He seems completely fine.
He's playing on the floor. He's prone. He's locked in. Whatever it takes.
His knees, just like that's like just a calf extension for like 20 minutes now. It's like holding that table up. Well, he's backing on the fight. Wait, am I casting? Wait, no, that's not my job.
No, it was just a quick hit, but you've just, you know, taken extra space here. Just like Gravity took the table away from Vegas a moment ago, apparently. It just, you know, everyone just losing what they hold dear. Also, Crayon Eaters losing the lead that they were nursing as melee creeps. You know, starting to get ahead here, Jake.
Yeah, all over the map. AVG doing a bit of jungle stealing as well. A lot of camps up right now. A lot to fight over. But with most of those Guardians down, it's going to be all about those jungle objectives in the next couple minutes. See if we get into more teams fighting in the sides. Seven, of course, wants to clean up these Sinner sacrifices. Isn't going to go for it now. Maybe hear something. Wants to get into a fight. And there's the combo. Yeah, follow up. Sinclair in trouble. Yeah, can't even get out of that one, even with the TP. So Quig, overstepping the mark, tried to get a little bit fresh with that TP out.
I feel like Quig has just been getting beaten up by Mo the most on this game. Speaking of Mo, going over a little bit, belly flop slide over and in. Pashi pop, the one he's off chasing. And how deep do they want to go here? Holiday is kind of in the neighborhood. But chasing people down effectively here in the underground, a little bit difficult time. Still, though, chasing down the Mirage. This has been a long time to get stalked by a mole and his buddy up on top.
Yeah, and they get a big heal on him, though, with that cube and rescue beam. And, yeah, even Mo, too much to chase down here.
Still, Crayon Eaters chipping away a little bit the lead that Melee Creeps was in. And also, I kind of like this here for Crayon. We didn't talk about it here, Jake, but Crayon's just been chilling a little bit over and left, staying out of some fights for a little bit, getting more farm. And I think when you're playing Yamato, it's good to like see his moments here, be like, everyone else you fight, I will do the farming.
Yeah, I mean, I think after that early turnaround where he, was in a 1v2 and looked dead to rights and is able to turn and get some kills, I mean, that's such a big momentum swing for your game. I like the idea of slowing it down a little bit, farming up. We do, I think, need to see him get active pretty soon, but maybe with the next big timing, it's something where Yamato can come into the fights. I mean, Crayon Eaters, I think they do need to play for a team fight. They do need to win something somewhere on the map, and they have the tools to do it, right? They've got the Kelvin Dome. They've got the combo. Maybe you wanted to wait for the Affliction if you really want to have everything possible available.
Our green walker is under attack.
All right, take a look at the map. Crayon Eaters off there on the right-hand side. Their jungle being invaded by melee creeps. All right, take a look at Buds. Buds in Vegas may have something to say about it. Going deep down into the basement, looking for AVG. It's a storm, and it's underground. It's more likely than you think, and it's just breaking the Observer PC, but not as much as Buds just got broken, just like Vegas's table. Also, Vegas died.
Melee creeps being better there, just bringing more numbers to the engagement, more ready for that fight, and they're going to transition it straight into a walker take. Mirage as well, pressuring the opposite side of the map, making this difficult decision. Crayon Eaters look like they wanted to try and gank the Mirage, but he snips it out. I think he's going to be just fine in that side lane.
So things starting to get more and more away from Crayon Eaters here. The kill in the underground turning into the right walker going on down. And you're looking at the economy right now. You're starting to have to worry about a beastly Shiv being played by AVG, who is starting to get very significantly ahead of the game. And, the other thing too here, Jake, is just they're turning the advantage into just eating a lot of the jungle away from melee creeps.
Yeah, and that's where the problem compounds. Earn fight coming up next. Pick up for melee creeps. In the left side of the map being pretty staunchly defended. I think this may be a hard earn pickup. Yeah, so it would seem. Shiv just fearlessly tanking everything from Pocket. No respect on that. Pocket has no cloak. Could be in trouble, yeah.
Yeah, goodbye. Vegas just goes in, dumps a bunch of goo on Shiv, and Shiv just goes, come on, man. I just got this washed. What are you doing? Walks up, does not care. And Pocket, if you're on even terms, actually is quite an unfortunate matchup for Shiv, but not so much there. Meanwhile, Lasso into Q. Stay safe. Into the frozen shelter. Quig still might be the one to go down, just getting hit with combos and lassos galore. The key target of choice, but this time, combo coming out late into the fight, in onto the Viscous. Crayon Eaters trying to make something work here. Crayon now sensing blood in the water. Gonna do Shadow Transformation later into the fight. Looking for low members. Pashi Pop pretty low here in the fight, so is Saya. Kelvin, though, under pressure here in the back. No more frozen shelter. Hides back by the Veil. Crayon goes down. Got punished by John. No swap even required.
AVG got pulled out of his execute there. I'm not sure if it was going to be quite enough for the kill, but Saya, I think, would still made the right call there. Would rather just save the Shiv's life, considering he's pretty farmed. He's a pretty significant carry. Killing the Kelvin, not really worth his own life. So the rescue beam makes a world of difference there. And at this point, not giving kills back to Crayon Eaters really is the name of the game. I mean, the lead has expanded. You're up 14K. We're starting to question about whether you can even attempt this difficult earn drop. I think it's possible. I think the threat of 7 is maybe a problem, but no Kelvin Dome, maybe there's a window.
Dan, the momentum of the match shifted when Vegas's table went boom. What does it mean mentally to a player when even your own furniture is no longer supporting you in your journey as Vegas pauses the game again? Oh boy.
He's got to change positions. He's been playing prone this whole time. Now he's going to sit cross-legged.
I mean, hey man, in this world, the only thing you can rely on is yourself. And the sooner you get used to that reality, the better off you'll be. The less disappointed you'll be, because you won't expect, it's when those expectations, that stuff is there, that's going to support you, that, and it's not there to support you, that's that dissonance. That's where you get that mental anguish. So if you just don't ever expect anything CP.
Also, people wondering, where's hydration? And, this is unverified info. Take it with a grain of salt, but I hear that hydration is on a entertainment and hunger strike until McGinnis is the best hero in the game. So we'll see if hydration survives. We don't know.
Rest in peace, bro. All right, Melee creeps down 1. Down 2, continue to fight this out. Crayon Eaters, maybe this is an opportunity for them. It's a knockdown drag out here in the jungle.
Yeah, I mean, decent engage here from Crayon Eaters so far, and you know, as unstoppable as AVG is looking, this isn't necessarily the fight you want to go. Flick is able to get the earn turn in, and this is one way for Crayon Eaters to go back in the game. Also, Shiv still getting chased on down, and oh, good lord, Rocade may have been a little bit deep. Meanwhile,
He's taking the
at
throne.
base,
Hello? That's so huge. He's able to open the base guardians and the shrine, grabs the flex off for the team. Needs to get out though. Dying would be pretty expensive here. See if he can escape into a corner and hit the Traveler. Here it comes. Does he make it? Yeah, he's going to be out of there with ease. That's such big rat power there from the melee creeps. Pashipop grabs a shrine.
Let's push blue.
Actually, we got an update on chat again. We can't verify. It says Calc broke his hand smashing Vegas' table. Calc's hand is really bothering him right now, and you know, that explanation is as good as any. You know, Calc, your hands will feel better if you stop breaking tables. That's all I know.
Get on that wrist stretch grind, brother. We need to. You gotta recover. Carpal tunnel is serious.
I think it's a wee bit of overuse in actuality, but the idea that he's actually just sitting here breaking tables, far more entertaining. But Crayon Eaters still a chance here in the match, and I mean, look, I will say this here, Jake. They've found pretty good lassos, pretty good combos. Like the combination between Luffa and Flick of finding opportunities even while down is pretty good. Even working around, you know, some pretty big roadblocks like a very farm Shiv.
Yeah, and I mean, Pashipop also getting pretty crazy farmed here on the Mirage. I feel like he's just kind of been playing his own game here and really putting a clock on the Crayon Eaters, who, let's face it, they have like some scaling issues, right? They have a few heroes that are going to go late, but I feel this Mo and the Kelvin may have some problems as you get deeper and deeper into the late game, especially with Viscous able to save people from your combo, limiting some of what Mo can do in the fights where all 12 players are present.
Well, you see the key there. Just grab the ball. You know, you wouldn't think it would be effective, but you throw a lasso onto the ball, and then you have Mo just beat it like he was getting ready to flatten out some pizza dough.
Like, where's the lasso going to stick? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's a sphere.
It's a magical lasso. We live in a world, and well, the Deadlock, they live in a world where, you know, there's magic. There's the magical industrial complex that, you know, McGinnis is part of. You find a way. You can handle the goo. But lasso into immediate cube. It shows just like, yeah, I feel good. I'm going back into this.
Yeah, he's so strong right now. He still has debuff remover. Looking to dive deeper here. Oh my, that looks dangerous. Holiday in massive trouble. Shiv looking for the executes.
Yeah, Shiv's HP bar is not moving. Killing blow, good to go. Gonna be looking here for Buds. Buds just getting mercilessly sniped out of the sky. Power shot into execute. AVG feeling rich as Crayon Eaters go down 4, and mid-boss probably going to be another casualty of war here in just a moment.
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, I think they probably ought to take the mid-boss here. Seems like, yeah, they are headed that way now. Of course, you know, Pashipop is gunning for the world record in objective damage. Shiv is just out here pressuring a walker, and I like that melee creeps are being really greedy here. Like, they're even going to dive in, and I think this is going to be an easy kill here onto the Mo. I mean, he just doesn't really have anybody to defend him. Playing under the walker, maybe they're a little too scared to dive. Spawner's coming up. Yeah, you don't want to risk your life with this farmed GT and Shiv.
Well, Rejuvenator broken down in the middle, and for Crayon Eaters, you know, the damage done by gravity may have been too much to overcome because this game has now started to get away from them in full. And, you know, again, you kind of go into this area where it's late enough in the game that, you know, Jake, you get the lasso onto someone that isn't getting shadowed by the Viscous, or onto the Viscous, and you combo after, and you get a kill, and it's clean. You still probably lose 5v6. That's the reality of the situation that Crayon Eaters finds them in now.
You need a very strong team fight right now from Crayon Eaters to get back in this game, because with the rejuves, trading, you know, 1-for-1 is not going to be good enough here. A catch onto Pashi could be good, but now they've sniffed you out. They know you're here. It's a 12-man team fight. Everybody in the server here looking to get in on the action.
All right. Crayon Eaters, what could be their last opportunity to make something happen? Do they have it? Quick goes down. The damage, huge. Over and in for Crayon Eaters. Buds with a great storm cloud. But is it going to be enough? AVG still walking in, and he's looking enormously thick right now. Moving on in, 3,000 HP. Not worried at all about the situation. Pashipop, he'll finish off Buds. And even with the opening where, you know, Quig goes down, the rest of it here, Jake, very much melee creeps coded, as this should be first stage patron going down.
Yeah, you only lost Quig, and that's a team fight. Now you're going to clear all the base guardians. And I mean, Flick is still low. He needs to heal up. He can't even really come out and contest. You're just hoping to get like that one last chance fight. But it is still up against Rejuve. And you got enough time for Melee Creeps to take this fight before the Rejuve expires, most likely.
All right. Patron, going on down. And here's a question, Melee Creeps. Do you want the $1,000 here and now to be the champion once more? Or do you be safe? And
the answer is they really want that $1,000. They're going to take the secure route. I mean, I think this is just objectively correct, right? Keep fighting earns. You know, there's a lot of jungle to clear at this moment on the map. Keep the fight away from the enemy base.
Jake, I just don't get it. You have one team playing ultra safe to secure the $1,000 and the championship, and the other team quite literally breaking their furniture to try and fight for that prize at the same note. There's difference of fight within the teams, even though the results are hard to argue with.
Crayon Eaters are going to go for this. They're going to gamble, and I think they'd be right. They're going to catch a few players alone. Could be an opportunity to get back in.
Well, they're looking for it. The combo coming on out. They decide to go big. They go for AVG, but that health bar ain't moving right now. AVG still looking incredibly firm. All the ultimates on board here for Crayon Eaters here so far. Melee Creeps, though, still looking awfully healthy. Crayon gonna be first of all. Pashi Pop just ratting out the damage here on the Mirage. John with the follow through. Another 3 down. And now this may truly be the end.
Debuff removers, I mean, you just have all the answers here for Melee Creeps. Immaculately played team fights, a well-deserved victory here in Fight Night. And Crayon Eaters, props to them for showing up, for making it competitive. But honestly, Melee Creeps showing why they're such a strong team. Their team coordination, the team fighting, taking everything on a much higher level here. And as good as the Crayon Eaters players are on an individual perspective, they just cannot hang as a team.
Melee Creeps looking good once again. You're back-to-back champions here. Deadlock Fight Night, North America. And overall, regardless of whether or not they have a playmaker like a Holiday or Paradox, or they have the GT, they find a way to make it work. And, you know, Melee Creeps plus Quig, a match made in heaven, as so far, they look very hard to beat here in North America.
Definitely a great showing for them, you know, to secure another win here. I mean, and it feels like the dominance of NA has really been going back and forth. Hydro Nation, after the rebuild, it looked like they were going to start to be really dominant, but Melee Creeps has started to assert themselves. I think once John joined this team, Quig coming onto the roster, they've looked like an even stronger version of their past selves, and have looked even harder to beat. The macro play has been immaculate, and I think Quig, you got to give him a lot of credit for, you know, the finely honed machine that this team has become. I mean, playing like we can cast stones at Crayon Eaters and say, oh, they're just a pug team, you know, it's whatever. But I still think, you know, you got to give them credit that they're dominating a group of the 6 of the highest ranked players in Deadlock right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking good. You look at the history here, and, you know, still not bad. And actually, it is just back-to-back. For some reason, I thought it was back-to-back-to-back, but it's only been 2 weeks for Melee Creeps here. But they did look very good against Hydro Nation last week, and continued looking good here today, where, you know, the player roulette continues, where Quig used to be part of that Hydro Nation team for all those early fight nights, and then Hydro Nation made changes after changes after changes. Quig ends up on Melee Creeps and ends up being the piece they really needed. And, you know, sometimes player chemistry is a tricky thing, Jake, but, you know, someone who can speak to that a little bit more with all the wealth of competitive experience, it's been interesting to watch the journey here, Dan.
Yes, I was trying to time it with my camera popping up, but it didn't quite work out. You know, it didn't quite work out. But that's fine. That's fine. Forgot your question, by the way, but here I am, guys.
It's supposed to talk about the, you know, player rosters changing over time, but, you know, the entire flow, it's over. You've ruined it, Dan. I can't believe you've done this.
I got to give credit to Quig, though. I think this may be a bold prediction that will bite me in the ass eventually, but I think Quig will not go back to Hydro Nation. That is my prediction. I submit it. I think this Melee Creeps roster may be here to stay. I think they've shown some really impressive stuff, and it's just way beyond an individual popping off to carry the game. I wouldn't be as impressed with them if that's the way they're winning. I think it's the fact that they look like a really solid team. They look, I mean, we've had a lot of teams come together and be changed over the weeks, and I mean, how different is it really to have a Pug team versus like bringing in 2 new players on a team that you've had before? So honestly, I give props to Melee Creeps. I think they look pretty strong. I'm curious to see them take on the full force of Hydra Nation. I think that will be a really good clash, hopefully soon, hopefully next week. But I think Melee Creeps are maybe here to stay, maybe here to be a real threat in NA and make it stay competitive as a region.
Yeah, and I think that element is really important because the game is going to be changing pretty consistently, and so it's really cool to ensure that you have like good team chemistry, because you're going to have to be able to work out disputes and kinks, and things are never going to be perfect necessarily for your team. You might go through sweet spots, but ultimately it's going to come down to how well the team can kind of adapt together. This is like a lot of adaptation in this game, and like even just going into a draft, like you don't know what you're going to be playing in a given best of 3. Like you just don't know, and that's like really an interesting aspect to Deadlock. And I think that leads nicely into the player of the match presented by Intel ZP, because I chose AVG. I know I'm taking over your role here for some reason. I apologize. That's on your toes.
Thievery. Thievery. I can't believe it.
But
He's getting revenge. He's getting revenge for the opening of the series.
I picked AVG because I felt like, obviously AVG had a great series, really a high skill player, someone that has shown us a lot of versatility on the roster, able to deliver some really sick numbers. Like first going into the Warden, obviously Warden is come back a bit, it seems, with this patch that dropped towards the end of last week. And so it's really cool to see that and how that functions, and how you can have really sick performances on this hero still, because Warden always had that carry potential. So it's cool to see that AVG is able to actually leverage that and not just be dropped onto the hero and do an okay job. And then similarly on the Shiv, obviously we've seen great results from AVG on this Shiv as well. Just like a great Shiv player, and just again like really doing the job for the team. And I think if we look at One Win as well and some of their success, they are also a team that has had a great degree of versatility within the team, where everyone can kind of almost play any role to a certain extent, and it kind of shocks you. And I feel like Melee Creeps could perhaps be trending that way as we look to the future with this version with Quig, who I love that you guys gave him the flowers. That's how they say it, right? You give him the flowers.
Yeah, give him his flowers.
Yeah, it's just recognizing the contributions, and at times, use that context where, we've been praising a lot of other people, but let's talk about someone that you really should be given a little bit of love to. But you take a look at the stats here, and this is what happens when your Shiv just is getting targeted in every fight and also not going down towards the end. There's a point where you see like 3 people shooting AVG, and his health bar doesn't even remotely move. And he's just like, you know what? It's a case where you look at it as like, might be a little bit cooked at that point.
Yeah, Saya did great as well on the Viscous, countering a lot of those initiations. And then like once you've dumped those skills, the cube saves AVG, and then he turns around and he's just a menace in those fights.
And one extra thing about Quig as well, for anyone that's a doubter, you can kind of just like look at last week when we first saw Quig go into the lineup, because Melee Creeps had sometimes like a sus macro, and sometimes like a lot more chaos, I would say, and you kind of immediately saw more organization and better calling like on the macro and the team fight situations in the mid game, especially where it can be the most difficult. And so you only really, I think, get to see a transformation like that overnight, or what appeared to us to be overnight, when you have a stronger voice in the team that is both respected and also, of course, listened to, and everyone's on the same page. And so just giving him a bit of extra shout out there, because the team, and I think, I've got to say this as well, North America esports in general tends to have issues with good in-game leaders. It tends to be that there's a few and far between, in terms of good in-game leaders. And I don't know if Quig would call himself an IGL exactly, but North America also hasn't necessarily had any issues in really showing that they have talent. Like the talent has always been there, but it's often been the leadership that's been lacking. And so I really like this idea that Quig can come into this team and potentially, turn this group of guys into like a really, potentially a team that can just hold the belt from Hydra Nation. That's actually such a sick storyline, especially considering that Quig came from Hydra Nation. So I'm so here for that.
Quig comes in as a drill sergeant, but you know who also comes on in? It is Pashi Pop here on Deadlock Fight Night for an interview. Talk to us about Melee Creeps with the back-to-back wins. Pashi, we're gonna have you immortalized talking about how Jason is your favorite caster and all the rest, but tell us in here, what's it mean here? Not only the
pure vision.
Jason.
What?
Definitely hit the wrong button. I meant to hit the Poshy Pop saying I'm his favorite caster. My bad.
Okay, Jason. What? You
Mike
just fix your
spamming the
soundboard
interview.
problems. But okay, let's get this interview back on track. Poshy Pop, you guys win back to back. What do you think? I guess first and foremost of how has Quig impacted the roster, and second off, do you like this new patch for how you guys like to play?
So I think Quig has impacted our roster because he's like the leading voice we finally needed after a long time. Because Cool Cheese was that leading voice when we had him. He was our IGL, and ever since we dropped him like quite some time ago. That's like quite some time ago. We didn't have that voice. So with Quig, he gives us like the direction. He has the experience. He's a veteran from Smite. He gives us the good IGL macro that we need as a team because all of us are pretty good mechanical players. We just need a leader, like a grunt leader to push us in the right direction. And
okay, I do need to be clear before you get to the second part of the question. You say you need a leader and you appreciate having a leader, but if the leader fails, you mutiny him and throw him into the sea. You're just like, Cool Cheese was our leader, and then we dropped.
Well, it was a little more complicated than that. It was a little more complicated than that, but
Okay,
yeah,
fair.
but yeah. But for the patch, I mean, it honestly, like, I think we're kind of playing the same compared to like the last patch. The impact this patch has had compared to other patches in this game, I think is quite minimal. Maybe that's a bad opinion, but that's just how I feel personally.
Yeah, I'm just curious how you see, like, maybe not like the overall patch reshaping the game drastically, but just like what heroes you think are like some of the bigger winners of this patch. Like what has kind of risen for you guys? Are there any heroes? I mean, we've seen a little bit of Warden, which we hadn't seen for quite some time. And Great Talent, I think, has risen even higher to be like a very, very dominant first pick in both regions. Are there any heroes you've been noticing either getting really strong or heroes that have like fallen off the face of the earth, and any individual heroes that have had like a bigger shift in your eyes?
Yeah, so I think Yamato has grown quite a bit, as we've seen in like EU and NA, and I think the thought process behind that, why Yamato has grown, is because first Calico got nerfed, and it's like either between Calico or Yamato, in my opinion, like what you're picking for your frontline, sort of, not full frontline, but like one of the frontline characters. So the Shred getting nerfed from 7 and Vindicta definitely has like attributed to Yamato being strong and whatnot this patch. So.
Well, I think it's fair to say that, I mean, obviously right now you guys hold the belt. You won 2 weeks in a row. Previously, the previous week you won against the full Hydronation roster. And again, the addition of Quig really seems to be working wonders for you guys. What do you think your edge is against Hydronation? Because you kind of like, they looked like they were pretty much on top before that point, and you guys have been growing and growing, and I assume the more time you have Quig, presumably the better you guys can get. So what do you feel like is your edge against Hydronation going forward? Because that's the main competition in NA now.
So when we first beat them in the last fight night, I think the biggest edge that we had as a team compared to other teams is I think a lot of teams in NA viewed the laning phase very one-dimensionally. They just like wanted to shove the lane and just have perma prio, because that's what Hydronation did, and because they're all like great individually mechanical players and they know how to win lane, that was the meta. Like that's how they were winning. But like when we came along, we're very disciplined. We know like how to basically counter like the wave pushing strat and just win lane game. So we were able to do that effectively, and I think that was the edge that we had in regards to the laning phase. And then outside the laning phase, I think we're a pretty disciplined team in regards to like playing slow, playing the map more cautiously and carefully than other teams, waiting for people to go into position. I think some teams in NA, they just might be a bit too hasty. They might feel like they need to just do something all the time. But us, on the other hand, we're okay with just like, as Lilmain says, just bleeding ahead, going slow, playing for the critical objectives like earn, etc., etc.
All right, well, it's great to get the insight. Poshy Pop, congratulations again on your victory. Melee Creeps, back-to-back champions, $1,000 once again theirs. But now, as we move to wrap up the night, Jason, Dan, any final thoughts here before we bid the night adieu?
Well, I'm just grateful that Poshy Pop confirmed everything that I had said, because if it turned out that Quig wasn't actually a big voice in the team, I would have felt very silly after just making like this 2-minute monologue about it. So I'm just grateful.
Yeah, just as usual, shout out to Intel, shout out to the community for coming together and supporting us every week. It's awesome to be able to put this show on for EU and NA, and shout out to all the players for coming out and putting on a show for us as well.
All right, well, this is going to be the end of the show. This has been Deadlock Fight Night number 23, presented by Intel. Thank you to the fans. Thank you especially to Intel for the sponsors, making it happen, the players, and also shout out to Vegas's desk. Rest in peace. We'll see you next week.
Win this, so we can win this.
You head towards me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just kill him. You're dead at some point.
Got him.
Nice.
Got one. Another one. Help.
Are you still
Oh,
alive?
you win.
I cannot defend you.
We can win.
No, not yet. I'm low.
Guys,
Guys, one. No.
Nice. Good shit. We'll win.
Right
We're
here.
good.